Welcome to the Overcoming Adversity podcast, Tara. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for so long.
Absolutely, me too. I been seeing the movement that you got going on, building a community of women, and I love your brand, and I love that you chose boxing as a avenue for building that community, and galvanizing this type of movement for women. I really want to know though, Tara, how did you even get started, and why did you choose boxing to even go in this direction?
I chose boxing. I got started. The Femex boxing was born at a post office. Slow down because so I've always boxed. I've been boxing for about 11 years now, and I've had a couple of really amazing coaches, and I've always had boxing. So I've always had it to go to escape through, to use to keep me accountable without me even realizing it. And it's a very small, tight knit community. No matter where you're at in the country, all the coaches kind of know each other, and you can't be coached in Colorado and then come here and get coached, and like the coaches not know who each other are. So it's like
Mhm.
another really big way that you get held accountable without you even realizing it. Um, and boxing, I didn't realize until I moved back to New Jersey from Maui that it helped me take my power back. So, from the things that I've been through, I had uh, gone through some really difficult things when I was in Maui. And the only thing that made me feel strong, physically strong, emotionally, spiritually strong, was boxing. And so, when I moved back to New Jersey, it's a pretty big flip of the switch moving from an island to Newark, New Jersey.
Right.
And so, while because I'm so connected now, Newark very much resonates with Maui, just the community and how everybody treats each other here, and how everybody looks after each other here. And that's my experience, anyways. Like in my community, in my neighborhood, where I work, where I train these women, is nothing but love, and I feel very looked after. I feel very loved, and so while it resonates a lot with Maui, it was a big change, and I was didn't I was kind of lost.
Mhm.
And I was at a post office because I was nannying at the time. It was a job that I got like the week I moved back here. Just needed to pay rent, needed to pay bills.
All right.
So I started nannying, and I went to this post office. And at the time, I just found a coach. I was still getting my nails done because that's just something I loved to do for myself. And it was at the point where I had to like accept and acknowledge that I could no longer do that for myself. If I was going to be serious about boxing, and my coach was kind of like giving me the runaround, like, girl, I'm not, I'm not holding mitts for you until you get rid of your nails. Like, and okay. So it was my birthday weekend, and I got my nails done, like just one last time with my favorite color. And, I just want to be cute for my birthday. And um, a bunch of them, I went to the gym that morning. They got cracked and broken, and this one popped off straight, like below the nail. It was painful. And I go to the post office the next day, and the girl at the post office, her nails were fabulous. And I always compliment women on whatever I can. And so I was like, let me see those nails. And I was like, those are so flash. She was like, thank you. She's like, yours look really good too. And I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And so she was like, yeah, I was like, I box. I got to get rid of these. And I'm like, just really wait until the last minute. And she was like, oh, you box? And I was like, yeah. And she's, I've always wanted to do that. And she said, but do you coach though? And I was like, no, I don't actually coach. And then it was like a light bulb moment,
Light bulb went off. Yeah.
because why wasn't I coaching? Like, I have a more than enough skill and knowledge and time inside the gym to be able to coach effectively.
Hmm.
And so I sat in my car and I called my cousin, who is like my number one human. And I was like, I just figured it out. This is the next step. I'm going to figure out how to get certified, what I got to do, this, that, and the third. And so it literally was born at a post office. It was this girl named Samantha, and she, like, I'll never forget her. And so that's how it was born. And then it just blossomed into this whole, like, it's been such a tool for me, and it saved my life, and it's helped me take my power back. And so I feel like it is my purpose on this earth while I'm living in this realm to teach this to as many women and young girls as I possibly can so that they have this as a tool to apply to their lives outside of the gym, because the disciplines that come with this sport and the lifestyle that this sport is, and everything that you learn, you can apply to everything outside of the ring.
I love it. I love it. I love that you chose to identify this, and when it like slapped you in the face, you said, "Yes, this is it." And now you just like took off and ran with that in a direction that you wanted to go in. You said something that kind of caught my ear that I wanted to unpack a little bit. It sounded like you made I don't know if it's a drastic decision, but you did make a decision to relocate.
Mhm.
And I would like to think most people would love being in Hawaii.
Yes.
so, you chose to come back to New Jersey. I've been in New Jersey 2 times. I have family that live there, but you said something that was key, and it was to take your power back.
Mhm.
And I wanted to unpack that a little bit. Like, what does that mean? And did relocating have anything to do with that?
Um, yes. The relocation happened shortly, not too long after um, I had been assaulted in Maui. And
Hmm.
so the reason that we moved is because the pillar of our family, my grandmother, she got, it was July 2020 and that when we moved. So in June, the beginning of June, I want to say, she got really sick really quickly. And I'm the oldest of the whole entire family, and my brother Garrett is second in line. And I was living out there with him and with my beautiful sister in law. And she's very important to my whole family, still is. And it kind of caught us off guard. We didn't really know how to move. But then when I saw her physical state, I
Uh-huh.
just knew not to. And I'm a very positive person. And the last thing I texted her was, Grandma, you're so strong and you got this. You're going to push through this. We're going to be there to support you. And then, like, that was the last thing I said to her on a text message. And she couldn't reply because she couldn't even like hold the phone because she was so weak. And
Wow.
so we just made the decision, like, we need to move back to, it's wonder we did not want to, I'll just make that very clear. We did not want to leave Maui. we
Okay.
tried, because you don't get moments back and you don't get time back.
Absolutely.
So we made the decision to we literally packed all our stuff up and we moved in 2 weeks time. So we sold everything that we could on Facebook Marketplace, and we all coordinated with each other throughout every single day of those 2 weeks. We bought our plane tickets one night, and from that point to 2 weeks from then, we sold everything, packed our stuff up, grabbed the 2 dogs and the cat. All of us, my sister-in-law was 8.5 months pregnant with twins. Like, we all we're all crying at the airport with our suitcases. Like, our grandma's sick, like we didn't want to leave, but we needed to. It was time to start the next chapter. And I think that the universe has a beautiful way of pushing you in the direction that you need to go in, even if it doesn't feel good. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So Tara, you also said something that struck a chord with me too as well. I don't like to hear of anything when it comes to like assault and things like that. But you sound like you were a victim of that. And if you can share what happened, and how did you handle that, and how did you deal with that?
Um so there's a the reason that I choose to speak about this, and I will go into some detail, is because unfortunately this happens so often to women. And
Hmm.
so while it does happen to men as well, I don't want to take away from that. I really truly want women to know that they're not alone. I want them to feel less alone, and I want them to be able to push through whatever it is that they're trying to get through. And when you get violated in that way, there's this weird, should I have done this?
Hmm.
Slash, this was my fault. Slash, I shouldn't have let him. Slash, like, it's just this weird mental space that you get in. And some of us don't make it out of that mental space.
Right.
And then we move from that space constantly. And the way that I was moving out of that space, which is a place of fear, um, what looked like me not eating how I should have been eating, fueling my body. Um, it looked like me running twice a day and going to the gym sometimes. It looked like me, like I could flip a 600-pound tire by myself. I had a friend that had this whole like circuit, like, what's it called? He had like a little gym in his backyard, and he had a bunch of different size tires. And
Oh, like a CrossFit setup.
CrossFit, yes, thank
Yeah.
you. And I flipped a 600-pound tire. Like that's how that's you can imagine the energy and like the fear and the rage that like could like make you flip that much weight, you know. So I was training, but that doesn't, I still didn't feel like I could defend myself and I didn't feel strong. So then what did I do? I got a knife. And when I told my therapist that, my this woman is an earth angel, she was like, maybe we don't use weapons like that because we don't want anybody close enough for us to even have to use a knife. And I was like, okay, good point. I was like, well, then should I get a gun? And she was like, maybe we don't get a gun. Like, it was so gentle. I was like, maybe we don't carry firearms. That's not the way to go. It's like, okay, well, my little girl in my brain is like, well, what if I see him again and he decides to like, he did it once, what's going to stop him from thinking he can do it again? Or if somebody else decides, So I was like, what do I do? And so maybe you should try, maybe we get back to boxing. When's the last time you boxed? When's the last time you worked with a coach? Like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, let me do that. And then, that's what I did. And it completely shifted the whole healing process. And I just started to really get quiet. That's when the get quiet thing started. And that's when I really started to tune in with myself and like redirect and shift. And, I got really upset with myself because right after it happened, you know, I, this happened in my own home, in my own bed with somebody that I trusted. I was on my cycle. So there was a reason I was saying no. And
Mhm.
he didn't listen. I said no over and over and over again. Didn't listen, forced himself inside me anyways. And you know, it I couldn't he pinned me down and I couldn't reach the floor. The floor was right there and I couldn't put my feet on it. And I could feel like that it was right there and I couldn't get a grip. And so to feel that powerless and that taken advantage of, like in your own safe space, like that's a whole nother level of healing and having to feel safe in your own home again. And so, you know, as soon as everything was done, I went straight into the shower because my brain blacked out. So when I came to, I was sitting in the shower. And then I got really upset with myself because I know better than to do that. Because now none of his DNA is on me. And now I can't go to the police because now it's a, he said, she said type
Right.
situation. And he's this big, powerful man on Maui. And no one's going to believe me. Everybody knows him and loves him. He's such a smiley guy. He's such a happy guy. He works a lot with celebrities that come to the island and their families. Like, so it's, it was going to be, and even if I did have DNA, it's that whole process of establishing a crime, a crime that happened like that with the law enforcement. They drag you and your family through the mud, and it is not comfortable. It's not easy for victims of sexual assault to, seek justice from the person that took advantage of them. And so it's this whole. It really isn't just this happened, get over it. This happened, move through it. This happened, okay, pivot. Like I said, a lot of women don't make it out on the other side of being healed and being able to have healthy relationships with themselves first and foremost, and with future potential partners and friends and men or women, whoever, unfortunately took advantage of them. But it's like, it starts with you first. And I just feel like it, again, it's my responsibility to share my story, work with women, help them, help equip them to feel empowered. When you feel like you know how to box and you have that knowledge inside of you, I fully believe that you move different. So if you're moving different, you know, you might be you look like you might be a problem. And then from there, you're less likely to get messed with. And that's like my whole philosophy, is to not ever have to be physical with somebody in the first place. You just move with this chi about you, and you know, don't mess with me. I have nothing but love for you, but don't cross me. Kind of vibe, you know, and that's just what I'm trying to equip everybody with in this city.
So, as you're telling me your story, I can't imagine that. Um, and I'm saying that as in, like, I know I've been through my own situations too as well. But recently, our son reached out to us. He was jogging with one of his friends, and they decided to split up or do something. And it was a young lady, and she was attacked on that trail,
Oh wow.
and that shook her up. That shook her up. That shook him up.
Yeah,
As in, like, remorse and things like that.
yeah.
And just to hear that, having that conversation, and just to hear you telling your story, I wanted to follow up on that, Tara. You know, after going through that experience, it takes a lot, I could imagine, to get past that, get through that. For our listeners that are listening, if they may have been through some of the same things and still stuck in a certain spot, right? Or they may have a family member that they know that is stuck in that spot of going through something like that, or close to that, or anything near that. What is it that you could share with them of, like, how you got past that, how you worked through that in regards to get to where you're at now, and you could actually speak about it?
This happened to you, but it doesn't define you. And I really believe that if you think about it the right way after sitting with it for some time, you can use it to empower you, and you can use it to fuel the next bits of your journey. And so that is really my belief. And so, because, you know, out of all of this, for an example, out of all of this, you know, self blame and traumatic experience, and I mean, it's taken years to get to the point that I'm at now in this. The Femex boxing was born out of it because I had the right mentality about it because of boxing. So, like, I just encourage people to know that whatever kind of traumatic situation you've been through, it is a part of your story, but it does not define your story or you.
You said, when we were speaking, you've learned how to, like, protect your light and just protect your energy, and, like, just guarding your time. How did you develop that mindset? How did you develop that resolve and that resilience? And I ask you that specifically because a lot of people that I've encountered, or I just see, observe in this world, there, I would say, is either people pleasers, or they're more inclined to say yes to things opposed to saying no.
Hmm.
So how did you find that for yourself?
Uh, Two things. One, I heard two things along the way that really stuck with me. You know how when you hear things, especially now we have all these cool platforms, right? We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Threads, we have like all these things. So it's just like information overload, and you hear all these really, like, all these phrases and sayings all the time anytime
Yes.
you open whatever kind of app. But two things that really stuck out to me, three things I'll say. One is a comparison of your life to a garden, right? And I'll get into that. Two is there's two types of people in your life. They're either going to fan your flames and make them bigger, or they're going to try and put your flame out, right?
Right.
And then the third one, I'm blanking on. So we'll just go with those two because I'm blanking on the third one right now.
It's all good. No worries.
Um, I thoroughly believe that, and I just every day, my life is like a garden. Gardens are a lot of work, right?
Yeah,
They're a
no, my wife just bought a pot of flowers and she says this is like her new project. But go ahead.
It is the project. They're like, you get plants and they're your babies and they become like part of your space, right? So
Right.
I have this whole, I've always had a garden, always. Like when I was little, very little, my grandfather, he had this big, beautiful garden in his backyard. And I was at his house all the time when I was a kid with all my cousins and my brothers. And so it started there, I think. He had fruits and vegetables and he had flowers. And then, I got a little bit older. We got our own house. My mom made me a garden in the backyard. I, in Maui, the soil was dreamy there. I got to garden and pull weeds every day. And then you start to think, you think while you're gardening, you get quiet, you listen to the birds, or you put a podcast on, you put music on, you're thinking. And everything truly is like a garden because you have your garden, which is your life, and then you have the earthworms that you need in your garden to make the soil rich, and you have the people that are like fertilizer that you
Right.
need to enrich the soil, and
Right.
you have seeds, all these little seeds, right, that you plant. You have bumblebees, which you need, you have honeybees, you've got ladybugs, and then you have like those bugs that are harmful to your plants that try and eat all the plants before they can even bloom and fruit.
Yeah.
And you know um, you can have all of these things in your garden, but if your soil isn't any good, which is representative of yourself, it doesn't matter how much you have of everything else around you. It doesn't matter how good your seeds are because they're not going to bloom if the soil isn't any good. You got to water it. You got to have great soil. You have to cultivate your soil. You have to irrigate. You have to have a whole irrigation system going. And so it's all circular and it all has to work together. And if your soil isn't good yourself, like you have to work on yourself, then everything starts to bloom, right? You have to be connected to yourself in order for that to bloom. um yeah, the garden thing just kind of like blew my mind, and that's how I take care of myself now, is I think about it as a garden. You have people that want to come in, they want to look at your beautiful flowers, they want to share your fruit with you, they want to take some flowers home and give them to whoever. But a lot of people try to come into your garden to stomp on your flowers. They don't care about your garden or how much work you've put into your garden. They just want to take from it or they want to ruin it. Same thing with the fanning the flames. It's the same thing. You're just gonna That's how I protect myself, and that's how I just view everything. It's just a simple kind of way to break down all of the happenings in everyday life. I never let any of that get in the way of what it keeps me focused. How simple it is.
So you're one to embrace the feminine essence and the feminine power. I could hear that in your voice. I could hear that within your story. How does that resonate now with your company and your community that you're building?
I just think that women are the pillars of our community. Everything comes from a woman, and that's the first thing you see when you go to my site. Everything comes from a woman because think about it.
I'm listening.
Every man that ever invented everything, where did they come from? A woman.
No, woman, I got you.
So then from them, all these beautiful ideas came, but that all came from a woman, like everybody comes from a woman. That's just, we have a superpower, we're necessary, we're pillars. And so I feel like a lot of the times, shout out to my single dads and my, single dads holding down the family, carrying the family, because that's very much a real thing. It's happening in my own family.
Yeah.
But a lot of women are not taken care of. We're very much, it's very natural for us to nurture and to take care of others before ourselves. So I just want to pour back into that layer of our community because I fully believe that when we pour back into that layer of our community, the cup will flow over into other aspects of our community. So I just, the reasons that we don't take care of ourselves, we're watching kids, we have multiple jobs, we're raising whole entire families by ourselves. Um, we our we don't make a lot of money, so we can't afford a gym membership. We can't, uh, get a massage once a month, go to the doctor, go to the chiropractor, just little things, eat a little healthier from things at the store. Um, so I just think that providing this space within the community to have a space where women want to come to consistently, that's accessible to them, that's reasonably priced, has resources for them so that they can improve the quality of their life. I genuinely, it is my intention and my belief, and I it drives me every single day. I just really believe that women, it's just going to spill over into every other aspect. Because imagine if you have more good days than you do bad days,
Yeah.
and you're able to come at people a little bit softer, a little bit less hardened, a little bit kinder, with a little bit more love. What's that going to look like in your day? And then it's going to ripple effect with every single person that you come in contact with that day, and spill
Yeah.
into the next day. That's my intention behind the whole thing.
I agree with you. I've been really in tune with like this positive energy, and it
Yeah.
seems like as soon as I get much more in tune with that, things just flow, and the frequency of things is just a whole lot different and just on a different level. I I had to work on myself and change my life, and once I started doing that, I started working on me, and I started like understanding the importance of like self care along my life and along my journey. Can you share with our audience what does self care look like for yourself once you made a transition in your life and you said, "This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to live my life. This is how I'm going to change my life." How are you employing some of those things into your life now?
Well, if I'm not taking care of myself, then what kind of leader could I possibly be? So,
Mm,
um, I I just do what I say I'm going to do, right? I protect my sleep. Sleep is really important to me, and it's just a foundation for everything else to fall into place to the best of their ability throughout the day, all of the uncontrollables, right? So, I make sure that I'm eating healthy. That's like a non-negotiable. My sleep is a non-negotiable. I read a lot of books, and I listen to a lot of Eckhart Tolle, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to your podcast. I'm constantly, no one's going to pour into me for me, right? I have to
right,
do
right.
that for myself. So I have to make sure that I'm tip top. I got to make sure that I'm like, my foundation is solid in order to be, pillars for other people and in this community. And that's really the main thing. It's nothing crazy. I don't do affirmations in the mirror. I don't, not to knock any of that, but like I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's sleep, it's diet, it's water intake. I go to the gym almost every day. Um, and I'm quiet and I just read. I listen, very much listen. Listening is the biggest key, and not just to other people or the important people in my life. I listen to myself. And in getting quiet, my big download the last like, couple weeks was in getting so quiet and taking care of myself like this, I can hear my gut loud and clear now. Whereas before, it was kind of faint, and I would be like, well, let me just go to this thing and see. Even though like I'm a little sleepy, maybe I shouldn't go, or my gut's like, girl, just stay home. Just don't do it. There's something there that you're not supposed to experience. Just trust me, stay home. And I'm like, maybe let me, whatever. Let me just go. And I'll go and I'll experience the thing I wasn't supposed to experience. And then I'm like,
Mm,
and then more of my cup is poured out. And I'm
mm,
like scratching my head and wondering why. And it's because I didn't listen to myself. And so now that I've been so quiet, like it happened in the last 2 weeks, two very important things, events that I had said I was going to go to, and I'm not one to go back on my word. But I just, something was telling me like don't go, and there was a couple of people that I probably shouldn't have interacted with.
mm.
If I had gone, it probably would have been a thing. And
Right.
I, that I not a bad thing at all, just something I didn't need to experience. And I had seen in a reel after that these people were there, and I was like, that's why I was supposed to stay home, because I didn't need to be interacting with them. I needed to be home reading, cleaning my space, getting it ready for fall and winter, like doing me, refinishing the book that I've been trying to finish for the last week. So it's just you get quiet, you can hear yourself loud and clear. It's incredible.
I want to touch on something because you mentioned it earlier, but it seems like it has been a significant impact in your life. And you could tell me if any one of these made an impact in your life, either a counselor, a mentor, accountability partner, or a specific book or something like that. But it seems that some of the you sitting back, you listening, you focusing on yourself, some of these things have helped like tune some things inside of you. Can you talk a little bit about how important that was for you?
Yeah, definitely two people, and then the rest are books. So, um, a lady named Louise, she kind of was the spearhead to this whole journey of mine. And this woman, it was the mother of one of my really good friends, and she just saw me. Like before, I didn't even know like what was really going on. Now all the knowledge that I have looking back, I'm like, oh, that was really cool of her to do. She saw me and she believed in me so deep and so big. And she's still to this day like one of the most important people in my life. And she just showed me a new way to be doing everything without saying, oh, don't do this, you should do this. Like it just by being open and loving unconditionally, no matter how much of a jerk I was or how, what I was going through. She just showed me unconditional love. And I had never received that from anybody other than my grandma. And we all know grandma's unconditional love is just like a
It's,
special kind of like
it's different.
realistic conditional love, not like real world type love. And so just real world, like, love, like real deep, true love. And so she showed me so many, it's just a new perspective of like, this is how families can function. This is how you can function with your ex-husband and it can be healthy. This is how a healthy relationship functions, and this is what it looks like, and this is how beautiful it is. And like this is what eating this kind of stuff does, like it was this really cool. And then Dr. Catherine, my therapist, yeah, she was, I mean, that woman just, I met her in Maui, and she just was so patient with me, and she worked on me with all my like deep trauma stuff. And I was the jerk that was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And she'd be like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, then we can just sit here for the remainder of your time, or you can leave, or just very gentle, like, just like, okay, well, and I'm like, nope, not doing it, just being a jerk. And she just was so patient with me and so constructive. Make sure if you ever get a therapist or a clinician, or you seek outside help, third party help, that they're giving you homework, right? They don't just like
Mm.
talk the whole time. They're being constructive about it. They're asking you questions. They're paying attention, and writing stuff down is good because you're not their only patient and they need to remember important things about you. So like, don't be intimidated by them scribbling stuff down. They're getting to know you and they're trying to help you. Um, yeah. And books, Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey. Huge book for me. Money Out Loud by Berna Anat. Amazing book, super funny read, super easy read. It's an educational book about money that's super helpful. Her whole thing is also family trauma having to do
Mhm.
with money, which we all like need help with. I don't care who you are. And Spirit of Intimacy by Sabanfu Some. I don't want to butcher his name. And Healing Wisdom of Africa by Melodoma Some. All of those books were like hugely, profoundly impactful for me, and I highly recommend all of them.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So you're one of resilience. You're one of mental fortitude, man. And I'm so happy to hear your story and hear the journey just sharing that right now. Can you talk to us a little bit before we get ready to wrap up and get out of here
Mhm.
about where did that mental toughness, where did that mental resilience come from? Because you spoke earlier of like breaking like family trauma, those types of generational types of things. You've been through uh, unsurmountable about a lot of things that you mentioned earlier here on the podcast. Where did that mental fortitude come from? That resilience come from? Was it something that you just developed as an adult, or is it something that you could pull back to from either like your parents, from like an aunt and uncle, your grandparents, or just your upbringing and things like that?
I would love to give like my ancestors credit, but I don't really know who they are, and um I would love to give my parents credit, but they really, and I've had this talk with them, so if they watch this, like they're not going to have their feelings hurt or anything. I'm not like throwing shade. um, they really did the best that they absolutely could with what the tools that they had in their toolbox when they had us, right?
Mhm.
And for the most part, you know, we were fed. It doesn't mean that it was good food. um, or wise, but like, we had a roof over our heads, even though it wasn't like the best situation, and we had food, even though it wasn't the best. Like they did the best that they could, right? So I wish I could, pay homage to them, but I wouldn't be who I was without going through what I've gone through. I think that the mental fortitude, I don't know where it comes from, but like I started taking care of my brothers when I was 9. Like we all kind of took care of each other
Wow.
when I was 9, and then just from there, like, it's been survive like this transformational period, and from when I moved to Maui to now, to bring this full circle and to wrap this up, it's always been about surviving, right? And
Mhm.
so I think that a mental fortitude was kind of it's like a hard exterior shell, right? And
Mhm.
now I'm learning to lean into the strength and vulnerability, and
Yes.
like that part of the healing process of now I'm thriving, I'm not surviving anymore.
Right.
And so that mental shift of like there's a lot of things that you do that you may not even realize when you're surviving, right?
Right.
do Sometimes you do shitty things. Sometimes you treat people not so kind. You do what you have to do. And a lot of us are like that. And I think that, you know, recognizing that, acknowledging that about yourself, knowing that that's like, okay, I did that. I'm not really proud of it. I forgive myself, or I forgive those other people. I'm moving forward. You know, I don't know where it comes from, but it's always been there. I just think like I'm some other soul from some other life that got stuck in this body that has unfinished business to to get done. Um, and then when my niece was born, and then my other nieces and nephews after her, I've never felt a fire like that. And I don't even have my own babies yet, so I can't even imagine how much more amplified that's going to be when that happens. But I want them, and all the littles that I have in my life, I want them to see what it looks like to work hard, to build something, to build your legacy. I want them to know that they are capable of doing the same thing. I want them to know what it's like to start something and see it through and finish it, or get it to the next level. And I want them to like know how powerful they are, and how I want them to move in love and kindness. I want them to be rooted in that. And I just want to be a good example. I want to be a better example for them than the examples I had coming up. And for whatever reason, I've always just, you know, that's always just been the backbone of who I am, and everything that I do.
If there was a client, and keeping their names out of the conversation if you want to, but based off of the business that you've built and the clients that you're working with, is there someone that came to you in a certain situation and going through your service, going through your program, how has it impacted them, helped them, or changed their lives?
So, yes. And the one that stands out the most is a younger girl. She's 16. She's about to be 17. Oh, I'm sorry. She's 17. She just turned 17. And her story it very much mirrors mine, especially when I was her age.
Uh-huh.
And she's so beautiful and so smart and so talented, and just she also boxes. And um, I feel like Louise in this situation. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm giving her helpful, just helpful pointers on like, hey, she has kind of like not a great relationship with her mom. And not because her mom's a terrible person. Her mom's not terrible at all. She's just like, her toolbox isn't very equipped. Like, she doesn't have a lot of tools in the toolbox, right? Just like
Right,
my mom.
right,
And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, she's doing her best, right?
right,
So I just always, I feel like I'm providing her like insight, I would say. Like, this is I was in your situation when I was your age, and I didn't know how to deal with my mom, or I didn't know how to navigate these types of situations. No one taught me about birth control. No one taught me about like how your boyfriend should be treating you. No one taught me about how to eat healthy or not to eat this and or that, or how important sleep was. And I just worked my whole life and never took care of myself. And so having even the space to be able to meet this young girl, have her feel comfortable enough with me to see me as a safe space to confide in me and, tell me these things in order for me to like pour into her like that, how
right.
I needed somebody when I was that age. That is just, that's why I do what I do, and it doesn't matter how old you are, right? I mean, like, I'm 35, and I just had these conversations with my mother, like, you know a year and a half ago, where we squashed a lot of things, and I was like brutally honest with her, and she was brutally honest with me, and we got to understand each other and know each other a little bit more. And that was like a year and a half ago, when I was 30, almost 34 years old. So I'm not saying, there's always work to be done. I'm not, it doesn't matter how old you are. Femex boxing is that safe space for you to be able to learn some new things, make
No
yourself better.
doubt. So for listeners who resonates with your journey and your story, Tara, what is the message of hope and empowerment that you want to share with them? What are some life lessons that you've been through that you could give them that blueprint for making any mistakes in life, or some of the things that you've made in your life, man? Can you leave us with some gems that have impacted you that you like to leave with our audiences?
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to do this. Treat your life like a garden, please. Um, no, this is the other one. This is the third thing that I
I
wrote.
knew it was coming back.
Yeah. No is a complete sentence. And that helps you set boundaries, and that helps you take care of yourself. No is a complete sentence. No. No, thank you. Um, and I don't know, just like I said before, your past has already happened, and it's a part of your story, but it doesn't define it. That's really the major thing. You are not defined by the things that have happened to you.
1000%. I had a mentor of mine's, and I acknowledge him in my book too as well. But we sat down and we were talking about some things that I had going on in my life, and one of the biggest things that he always told me was like, guard your tongue, Michael. Guard
Yes.
your tongue. You got
Most
to learn
valuable.
how to practice how to say no.
Yep. He's a smart man.
So Tara, if anybody wanted to work with you, book you on a podcast, get a hold of you, get a session, get a consultation, or anything like that, how could they reach you?
My website is the best way, which you are very generously sharing. Femexboxing.org. You can hit me up on Instagram. All my information is on Instagram. All my information is on LinkedIn. My Femex Boxing is underscore. My Instagram handle is underscore Femex Boxing underscore. Um, I would love to have the opportunity to share my story on any kind of platform. Thank you so much for providing this space for me to be able to share my story. I'm super grateful. I've been waiting a long time for this to happen, and I'm really so excited about it. And it's so great to meet you.
It's absolutely a pleasure of mine to have you on. I know that sharing your story is not easy, and to get to this particular level, it takes a level of boldness, level of transparency and vulnerability just to share your story. The idea of creating this podcast was to share stories, and if it's to just make an impact on one person, one listener, then we've done our job. So,
Yeah.
so I thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. It was truly an honor. I thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, we drop episodes weekly. God bless.
Can't complain at all. Couple dollars in my pocket, know it come and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.